All right, welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter Space. Today is October 27th, 2022, and this is episode 66 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to the entire digital asset community, and to help scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware not only on the XRP ledger, but on all of the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. Now, we host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host a focus topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And if I could just ask if everyone could give us a follow on Twitter at ledgerscale, turn notifications on so you know we're going live, and as well as at the bottom right, if I could ask if everyone could like and retweet this space so that hopefully other people can find this information valuable in the future.
Yep. How you going, Death? And so basically, we're here to just engage the community. So please, anybody, speak up if you have a question. I'm sure somebody else will be curious about the same thing. If you do speak up, though, just be courteous. It's an open forum. So yeah, welcome to the space.
Awesome. Well, and let's give it a couple minutes. I know we hit it right on the dot, and I know there's a couple other spaces open, so we'll let some people flush in. I sent you the invite if you'd like to come up, Alex. I'm gonna step away for like 5-10 minutes. I will be right back. I'm listening if you need me, but let a couple people fill in, and we'll get the conversation going.
Oh yeah, I'm sure some folks will show up. Man, I don't know. Actually, Death, you should watch that thing I shared earlier today about mastery. That guy freaking nailed it.
Would you share it on Twitter?
Yeah, it was a Google chat or a Google Talk or whatever I think they call them Google Talks. And it's from a long time ago. I'm surprised that I did not know about this guy. But boy, did he nail it. He got the thing right on the target between like the different ways of thinking.
Oops, sorry, shellfish. Yeah. If you want to post it up to the top, I'd love to check it out. I tried to look on your page, but I couldn't find the video at least right off the bat. I will be back though in like 5 minutes. I'm listening though, but I would definitely check that out.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, let me actually see if I can find it real quick.
I pulled it up. You had sent, yeah, you had put it on your page, I believe. I didn't get a chance to really watch it yet. I think maybe 5 minutes in.
Yeah, this is one of my kind of one of my things. Like you gotta think in different ways.
So how'd you find this one?
It just popped up on YouTube. I mean, I watch a lot of Google Talks, so it just popped up. But it's totally like I could have given his presentation. Like, I mean, I'm sure he's done more research and analysis than I have, but the essence is there.
Did you see they did damage on another museum, like fine art today.
Did what?
There were some climate activists. They, the painting, the girl with the pearl earring. They damaged it today.
Why?
Climate activists. It's like the second one, I think, within a week.
I don't get it.
I think the other one was an actual, like a Monet, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I'm all for the climate and environment and the ocean, and I'm even though maybe it's annoying, like having limits on the amount of fish you can catch and stuff like this, but why go around damaging stuff? I just don't get it. Anyway, I don't want to go off onto that. I just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, managing a system is one thing, and not economy. Well, you can actually think of the economy as an ecosystem. So managing the ecosystem well, like this is what a good farmer does, right? They manage their land, they turn the soil, blah blah blah.
You know what though? If it's all put on NFTs and like we're able to go see it in a digital museum, they can put them somewhere safe so they're not damaged in the future.
Yeah, well, the original is going to be on a hard drive inside a vault somewhere, so it's kind of really handy, especially if you want to be able to print out a few copies of your NFT. It makes no difference to how many copies you've got out there or what they're based on, as long as you've got the original tucked away in a vault somewhere.
Anyway, if you watch that guy's speech, I might actually, and I don't usually do this because I don't read that many like full blown books. Just takes me too long. I might actually get this guy's. I'm surprised I've never seen this guy, to be honest. He's this video. He did this talk almost like 10 years ago or something. I think it said 2013, 9 years ago. And I'm like, dude, he's like, it's like I feel like he's taking the words out of my mouth. And he makes really good sense of it. Anyway, we can get back to crypto. I think that this is the kind of thing that you're going to have to, we're going to see. And let's call it finance, okay, or fintech, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But we're going to see people that come into this industry. You're already seeing it. I mean, for the last few years, you've been seeing it, that are, say, from more on the software side of things. And they're coming into the finance world. And, they have different ways of like he talks about in that chat or in that talk about, like the outsider way of thinking. They have the software folks have a different sort of frameworks that they think through, right? So when they approach the problem, that's like the child's eyes thing, right? Like they're just coming in sort of, well, I don't know financial markets, but like, well, we can make the software do this, like they're not worried about the how market structures and that. So they bring in all this new thinking and just spices things up. And maybe it's not always a good thinking, but it's not always bad either. Sometimes they come up with some really, I mean, obviously, look at blockchain. Like, this is a bunch of software people that came up with blockchain. It's not finance people. So, like, yeah, man, It's really interesting. What I don't know. Watch that video. That's all I'm saying. If you wanna get into this industry, the amount of creativity that's gonna have to unfold between, say, the next few years is substantial. And that guy did a pretty good job at it, I think, at explaining, how creative people think.
How's everyone doing?
So far, so good.
Karma, I came on like a while back. I've kept missing it because of work. But I'm a friend of Death Ranger. I don't know if he's here though.
You broke up there, but he'll be back in a minute.
Okay, cool. I was gonna ask you, did you happen to see today like Kendra Hill was tweeting something about H bar saying it's like far superior to XRP? And I kind of know a little bit about this stuff, but I'm not too techy, but I guess he's saying like the technology is like superior and stuff like that. You have any thoughts on that?
Nothing I would like vouch for. I watched some of the um Thinking Crypto, like Tony's interview with the H bar guy, but I was doing other stuff at the same time, so I kind of was just listening and like not exactly paying attention. I did gather that the system design is different. I did not understand how or what the difference is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, interesting. Like, yeah, I think they have some hash graph technology or something like that, and it's like, I guess it's like a few years ahead of blockchain or whatever. Um, I don't really understand it. I don't know how it works or whatever, but it
It
just
sounded
seems,
interesting. I'll be
yeah,
honest. It sounded like okay, there's not a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I might want to look into. Like, it sounded interesting. It sounded like I mean, I don't know H bar very well, but from a technology perspective, because I'm not really a technology person, but the technology of it sounded intriguing. Let's just put it that way. So I'll probably end up having to look into it some more. I would. I'm not sure where the guy lost me is like the cryptography and how's the network set up. That's what he lost me around there.
hmm, interesting. Yeah, yeah, I kind of had some of the same thoughts. Like, I'm sure it'll be really successful in the future, but I just feel like the momentum is with XRP right now. Like look at like the infrastructure being built around it and all the Ripple partnerships and what have you. Like it just seems like it's just more of a safe bet than H bar at this point.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Sure.
I heard people say that like some H bar is basically like the security of the system versus XRP
Uh,
as the money.
lately, oh, I'm back. Welcome, Chisel. Glad you're here.
Hey, Death.
So
I made it.
I heard the question you asked, right? And so Hashgraph, the only difference, right, is the way that the distribution of the transaction really is going on. I should say that's the only big difference, right? They're still using the same elliptical curve and ED 25119, which is the encryption, right? It's the same exact as they do for the XRP ledger. Uh, they called their consensus the Federated Byzantine Fault Agreement, right? The XRP ledger's consensus is the Federated Byzantine Agreement. So very similar in architecture. Uh, Downside is it looks like they have been pumping the supply, right? Because it's centralized. It's more so controlled by that governing council of Hedera, and they've definitely been dumping on the market. There's no question about it. I've seen enough proof of it by now to say that for sure.
Isn't that like a group of corporations? What do they call it? Some sort of consortium, right?
Google and IBM and
Yeah,
MIT
yeah.
and
A
yeah,
consortium
Death,
of
like
corporations.
that.
death. Forget. Let's put it. Let's set aside. Maybe they've been dumping on them. Okay, so that's just bad behavior.
Yeah.
But
So
just from
here's
a
the
technology
here,
point of view, what's the difference?
okay. So
I mean,
here's the when you would distribute a validation of a transaction, right? So it would go from on the XRP ledger to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, right? So it's following the line of consensus of agreements of people who trust each other. On H bar, they do it where it would be distributed to your one, and so you send the validation to 3 to 5, and they send it to so on and so forth, and then you would send it to 7 and 9, right? And so on like that. It's just the distribution of the validation of a transaction is really the keen difference, I would say. They also have EVM on there, and there's different things that because it's centralized, it's easier to make the kind of changes that they've made so far, and it's not a bad network, right? The protocols aren't bad. It's it's just it, for most, so I would say it looks like a somewhat of a pump and dump.
That's how I felt about it too. I was kind of iffy about that, but thanks for the clarification.
well, I mean, I don't want to knock them, and if they've got a different type of consensus, but if the only difference is what, like they're essentially just doing like a different style of arranging the UNL because it's like what random or something like what's the
There's
where
also there's also a proof of stake component network for the way that the nodes work, and there's a couple different things going on.
there you go. Okay, that's a no for me.
So
Yeah.
I want to bring this subject up. Did anybody look up or Google or DuckDuckGo what's happening in the European Central Bank meeting today?
No, I haven't seen anything come out of what they've talked about.
I guess because someone was, I mean, I talked to somebody else. He said they have like all these like pages of what they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about crypto or something today, and today was a special day. I I was kind of playing with that conspiracy theory, and everybody's talking about like what's his name, David Schwartz. It's like a game he plays with us, right? Because he was saying like he was, anyways. The whole numerology thing, it adds 7, right? And today's date adds 7 for numerology. So supposedly it's supposed to be like a magic number day. And I remember that video from what's her name, Christine Lagarde, saying the magic number 7 in 2014 adds a 7. So this is a special day, So this might be a special day for the European Union for some reason. I guess they're gonna come out with maybe they have some new thing coming out today. We might hear it tomorrow, but I have to research on that. But I'm driving on that. But I just thought if somebody had anything on it.
I try to stay away from the conspiracy side of it. It really doesn't.
Okay, Charles.
It doesn't do any good.
Okay,
Right?
Charles. Not just kidding.
Letting. Yeah. Um. Anyway, though, yeah, it would be nice to see though what was talked about. Doesn't really help much when you see when you see what is supposed to be talked about
Yeah.
rather than seeing what's actually talked about. So yeah, we'll have to
Yeah,
wait and
yeah.
see.
But of course, we have to stay away from conspiracy. We need facts. We need actual factual truths. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. And for Chisel, did that make sense when I explained the difference in the way that the consensus works on Hedera? And this is where the thing bothers me a little bit, right? Because they've used marketing to change the fact that they say they're not a blockchain, which they are still a blockchain, right? But they have a different form of the way that the consensus works, a validation of transactions, and so they call it a hash graph.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's like definitely made a lot of sense what you said. I had no idea like they were like centralized and stuff like that. Like that yeah, yeah, like I kind of bought some H bar and now I feel like, I don't know, like they have a strong army and like a lot of support from the community, but I just always kind of felt like XRP was the one, and
But
everything else is like whatever.
no,
Now that you say hash graph, all of a sudden popped in my head. I was like, oh,
right.
how can they say they're not a blockchain? Like, a blockchain is like essentially a graph, a network of hashes.
Yeah, I know. It's marketing. It's and well, to be fair, like the
Well,
entire
that
space.
makes sense, Karma.
Hey, Death. If I could push back a little bit on what you were saying about like H bar being a dumping ground. Look, I like H bar. I just like them because they seem to be in bed with some big names. Purely from an investment point, I like H bar. But
Listen, this is not right. What everything I say is technical. It's not financial advice. Does has
right,
nothing to do with the value of an asset in the
right.
present or future. Right? Yeah,
But
it's a
but
multi-channel for sure.
Absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. And H bar has some of the worst tokenomics, right, of all the big name projects. Um, they absolutely dump. They dilute the hell out of the holders, and but with that being said, every project that's worth its weight in salt, they do it because you know, these projects still need to fund their operations. The only question, and to fund the development, but the one thing that I will point out is that when you have somebody like H Bar who's taking on this narrative of having these huge partnerships, right, with like some of the biggest names of any project out there, you would think that, funding would be handled already and they wouldn't need to jump.
Bear in mind this applies to Ripple as well. Just because this is the whole like, hey, if it's good, if the tennis shoe or the basketball shoe is good enough for Michael Jordan, it's good enough for me, right? So this is the celebrity type of marketing tactic. Just because somebody has a bunch of names on there, all that means is they got an agreement from them to put their logo on the website, or maybe they even didn't get an agreement and they just did it and they haven't been told to take it down yet. It's the celebrity bias. It's the celebrity bias thing. Like I don't buy that. Tell me what the thing does. That's what I want.
I will say though, as far as like marketing is concerned, and I hate to bring them up again because I beat the dead horse all the time. But look, with somebody like H bar compared to Quant, right? H bar, at least the average person in their mom's basement, so to speak, can dig their hands in and build on it. And the average person can't do that with something like Quant, which are two. So H bar and Quant being two of the biggest marketed projects out there in the space, at least H bar, you can jump in head first.
But Quant is millions versus H bar billions.
Yeah, but see, that's just a mental factor, right? Supply honestly really has nothing to do with the actual price. That just plays a mental role. And so
Yeah.
when you're looking for like long term longevity, right, of the network, you're probably worrying about the utility and usage that it'll be able to get. And so that's what comes to mind at least.
Speaking of Quant's tokenomics, guys, if you can comment, here's the thing about the max supply, right? From my understanding, Quant's max supply is locked by a smart contract, right? And common sense would tell you in the last year, how many times have you seen a smart contract exploit, right? Who's to say this can't happen with Quant's, a treasury smart contract or cap supply smart contract?
It's not an if, but it's a when.
That's what I think as well.
I think that's for most smart contracts, though.
Well, I mean, to be able to think about it too, I mean, Quant's original supply was 45 million. And obviously from pre-sales or whichever they decided to be able to burn quite a substantial amount of the actual Quant there as well. So, yeah,
Right.
it's
Nobody wants
interesting.
to admit, right? Nobody wants to admit that Quant was born out of a failed ICO.
Yeah, like I mean, as I say, I don't really want to rip them down or anything like that. And same with H bar as well. I mean, if they can find a place in the ecosystem to be able to, create a process that's easier and better to be able to use, then by all means, like I'm 100% for any kind of innovation that's going to push the space forward and also push technology forward in a way too. So, hopefully their marketing gets a little bit better in the way that they've been doing it lately. But I mean, I still hold like a lot of H bar. I think that they do have a really good future in the space. It's a different future from the money markets that we're sort of talking about as well.
Well, so I'm curious here regarding H bar because I've anyway. So from a cryptography like a network level, what's different between it, the way it accomplishes the job, and the other networks? And then I've got another question, but if anybody knows, if nobody knows, that's fine too, whatever. But what's different? Like I know, Death, you did like kind of an explanation, but it didn't totally resonate with me. What how's the formula different? How's the network consent? How is it different? Is it doing something that's like better than all the other networks?
I would say no. I would say it was maybe marketed that way, but no, it's not very different. I mean, every blockchain is attempting to do the same thing. It's just a validation of a transaction that is stored on a ledger that can be looked at a later date, right? Because you have everything and great information of everything that occurred.
So their gossip on gossip protocol isn't really a different way to be able to actually get that information across. I was sort of looking at HBAR in the way of being able to say whether it be like a package or goods or a product that needs to be sent from one end to the world. They could use HBAR and that gossip protocol to be able to see exactly where that's gone along that line as well. So. I sat down and watched that whole thing that Lemon Bard did. I think it was about 45 minutes or so, and talking about how the protocol works and the way that they actually spread out the information and the information gets pushed from, say, user A, and then it will get pushed off to someone randomly. And then from that point, it randomly picks another two people to be able to send it to. So therefore, obviously keeping their network nice and safe by knowing exactly where that information is. But then also saying when they want to be able to find a timestamp anywhere along that line, they can see if any information is actually being changed along that ledger, so they can find out exactly where someone's made any kind of change to that hash. Is that correct? Or
I mean, that makes sense. I'm okay. First off, a graph is just another name for a network. A hash graph is going to be like a network of hashes. But so if I'm understanding this right, the the key distinction here is that the essentially what in XRP ledger vernacular, essentially the UNL has like a random aspect to it where it'll just like trust any other node.
Yeah, this is where proof of stake comes in, because to have a node, you have to be, I'm pretty sure, staking or having a certain amount of H bar to be able to be in the node system. And so, obviously, whoever holds majority would have the most nodes. Same thing as Ethereum right now, actually. Same kind of setup as that. Like, technically, whoever has the most tokens would then hold the most node responsibility, most likely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I think I get it.
I still thought it was more of an agnostic kind of system, and the way that they actually ran their security levels on it as well is the fact that the information is actually passed to just completely random people across the network, or nodes, or whichever you want to be able to call it. Therefore, creating that security layer on as well, like a gossip on gossip protocol kind of situation.
I could see that being useful. I mean, I'm not trying to. I could see that being useful, but it would. I think there's also usefulness in the fact that, like, if I put you on my UNL, it's because like you and I've talked. I know you're regulated and licensed and all the proper stuff, right? Versus if I'm running a financial service and all of a sudden I'm randomly using some node or validator that I don't know who it is, and I you know, this gets to, I guarantee the lawyers would be like, whoa, 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 you got to slow down there, buddy. Like, you can't. That would be, yeah, the lawyers are gonna hit, yeah, they're not gonna do that, not gonna allow that. Technically, from like a technical perspective, I can appreciate it. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I can see it being good. I can even see it increasing like the distributed nature of the network. But if you go to jump into financial services, the lawyers are gonna not. They you can't do that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, like I don't think really their market is in the direct sort of financial services. I think their major use case might be a little bit different from, say, what Ripple's sort of going after, and a few others like that too. Like, I think it's a bit, yeah, it's a, if they're going to have a place, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be, money markets as such. It may be more along, like the tracking, tracking of, goods and services, or whichever it may be. But I mean, I could still be wrong on that too.
I mean, there's a clear opportunity for blockchain technology to be applied to supply chain. So, I mean, if that's what they're going after, I guess that could be different. Let me think about that for a second. I could see that making some sense. I don't know. We usually talk financial stuff, but because but in supply chain, maybe some of those laws, I have no clue, man. Maybe some of those laws would be totally different. But in financial stuff, you can't not have all the KYC, AML, blah blah blah. You gotta have all of that. You could just it's a hard stop. Like, you just got to. So to the idea that you would randomly choose somebody else to validate your transaction, and you don't know who this person that you randomly chose to validate the transaction, that would not fly. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I just don't think that would fly.
Well, I think the validation on the timestamps and things like that is probably a better use case for say if you're looking at Amazon or someone that sends precious metals or whatever it's going to be along from one country to the next. Like, okay, to be fair, you're probably not going to be just getting on one plane, or that the product will get on one plane and go straight to another country and straight into that person's hands. So say with a product like HBAR and their gossip protocol, if you attach that to, like, say, the tracking number of that product or whichever, and then you go and send it directly from your hand into, say, the guy that's going to come pick it up, like the delivery agent, for the first mile. Then he goes and sends that goes into his warehouse and stays there for half a day or whichever it is. Obviously, he's going to have a barcode attached to it, or say like he's got a QR code that he can scan on it. The way that I see HBAR being able to do what they do is because every time that barcode could get scanned, running on the HBAR system, you'll know exactly wherever your product's going to be all the way along the line, and you'll be able to track it back down to the last pair of hands that actually sent that information out.
Yeah, but why
I
would
mean,
they?
if that's the market they're going after. I mean, then okay, I think that's actually a reasonable market that somebody in the blockchain industry has to go after. I mean, it's obvious. So if that's what they're going for, um, then hopefully they've got it nailed and
Right.
they got it right.
Not to say like a U.S. UPS or FedEx or some sort of shipping service wouldn't use a distributed ledger, right, to send the messages to track their deliveries. But if you're FedEx, are you going to use a public ledger of HBAR of nodes or people that you don't trust? And why would they not just build their own blockchain, right, or use their own?
Think if a package is passed from FedEx to UPS to USPS, and then to your local like franchised mailed store, and they can all coordinate.
They could all each have their own sidechain that had connected APIs that prove the states of information previously. So, like, the sense is like, and not to say that the protocols themselves, right? All of these open source protocols, even the XRP ledger, right?
That's
Not to say
funny.
that they won't be used, per se, but it doesn't always have to be in the perspective of using the actual blockchain directly that's public to us today that we would call HBAR or the XRP ledger. Um, I see a lot of these enterprises and businesses in all walks of life building their own networks and then just having them interconnect.
That just karma. What karma said is like the internet of packages.
Well, we already have that. I mean, it just think about it from the global perspective. You know, USPS doesn't service, package delivery in China or Australia or, anywhere in Europe. Like this just isn't, so there's already got to be some methods. I mean, I don't understand this industry whatsoever.
So logistic aspects of it, it doesn't make sense for each one to have their own ledger. They should have like one sort of shared ledger, and then, like you said, have their own federated sidechain of that package ledger.
No, no, because what happens is that there's hardware limits, right? And so with the hardware limits in mind, there's only so many transactions and or scanned packages that can actually occur in a said period of time. And so this is where I always come down to, like, there's no one ledger to rule them all, right? Because they're just the hardware by itself. There needs to be separate networks with separate nodes operating, and they can have other clusters of nodes like relay nodes proving the states on other chains and relaying the information back to theirs. And so It's just a more interconnected system while they still get to retain, their own walled garden.
It's strange though with HBAR. Like, I mean, obviously, like I own HBAR, and I don't think I'm not really concerned about them sort of just going bust or anything like that at any stage. Like we run FPOS system here in Australia, and that's actually one of their staking nodes as well. So it seems kind of weird that obviously they're going to be giving a reward to go towards like a node or whichever, especially with a product like FPOS, because FPOS is what we use for our cash machines and things like that too. So I don't know the background between the relationship of HBAR and FPOS, but there's got to be something in there, especially with some of the companies they're actually attached to as well. I mean, yeah, and like Karma said, I mean, just because they say that they're attached to some company and they've given them the right to put their name up on a banner, their node structure for their staking seems quite interesting as well. So, I mean, that's just my point of view.
Wait, but if they're trying to integrate with the official financial system, did I understand that right, or did I get that wrong?
No, as I say, like I don't know the legality side of things for their partners and how that all goes together and their direct use case, and that's probably something I need to be able to have a bit more of a look at.
CBDCs. So I was in about was it three? I think it might have been two spaces so far, with the HBAR Foundation and the Hedera Foundation, which are two different foundations. Um, the Hedera Foundation is the ones that sit on the governing council that control the network, right? Google and IBM and those partners, and they are very adamant CBDCs. Like he just kept saying it. He was just like, all we're into right now is getting ready for CBDCs. That's so yeah.
But are they going for the market to be able to create CBDCs over the top of HBAR, or are they looking to be able to integrate that into CBDCs for whatever reason?
I couldn't. They didn't. They definitely didn't go
I
that.
mean,
And they wouldn't let them up to speak, unfortunately, either time.
I pretty uh, I pretty firmly believe that because it just makes sense. Every central bank will run their own network or side chain or whatever the hell you want to call it. Blockchain, distributed ledger. They're gonna. I couldn't imagine a central banker saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna give." I mean, this is the only thing that's as crazy as a central banker saying, we're gonna run our currency on a public ledger is the closest thing to that is these countries that use the dollar and they're not the U.S., right? Because they don't have control. They have no monetary policy capability because they're based on the dollar. It's the Fed that has the monetary policy capability. And to just give up all of that, the capacity to, it's like, I don't know, throwing your fishing rod over the boat. Like, you just gonna get rid of your capacity to do something? Like, what do you do that for, you idiot? Like, but no, I can't see any of them ever doing they should all run their own ledgers, and then you can interoperate. I mean, I think a lot of these countries, as the Internet of Value sort of matures, I think a lot of these countries that actually use the dollar as their currency, like, say, Panama, Ecuador, El Salvador, I'm sure there's others, um, Palau, um, maybe they'll start managing their own currency. instead of just relying on the dollar as a peg. But that brings in other risks. So, there's things to consider there because of a bunch of reasons. I'll shut up.
If there's anybody in the audience that has any questions or would like to come up and speak with us as well, please feel free to hit the request, and love to have you up. If Shellfish or Rob, Chisel, if you guys would like to say anything or ask any more questions, please feel free to go.
I'm just taking it all in, Death Ranger. Um, I wanted to know your thoughts on XRP, like as a third party bridge, like to deal with like walled gardens between like JP Morgan and Bank of America, or like different CBDCs for different countries, or what have you. Like just your thoughts on that.
Well, essentially, if there's flow, there will be a liquidity provider as long as the spread's there. And the spread will always be there. Just depends on how big it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think like I don't it's like I don't even think we could fathom like how big this is at times, because it's like we see all these partnerships and all these banks, and like we know they're building the infrastructure, but like
Yeah, I always like to go to reference and go back to what David Schwartz once said, and he said, we built the the XRP ledger to to be a public good, right? And so when I think of a public good, I think of kind of like a clearinghouse, right, or a settlement layer that's able to be used for, right, the good of mankind in that sense. Paired with the interledger protocol, I think it's probably one of the greater tools to use to solve the payments issue and the Nostro Vostro account issue. But right, that being said, there's you know until we really see what's going on, right? There's no way to really know what the further outcome is. I think it's definitely a multi-chain world, and whatever the central bank digital currencies end up using as their settlement layer, I could imagine would have a tremendous amount of just inherent value to the central banks themselves.
Yeah, my big thing with the CBDCs is if they can add an interest rate to it. I'm not so worried about the privacy concerns. There's ways to address that. I mean, I am worried about it. It needs to be addressed. Okay, but it's addressed. It's a concern that there's solutions for. But if they can add an interest rate to it, this would be something that we've never seen before in like financial or monetary history. Um, and I think it could really, really help maybe counterweight, or, you know, like if you have a bank run, because, that's like when the, hits the fan. And if you can adjust the interest rate on essentially cash, because CBDC it's effectively cash, um, then like you can't do interest rate on a piece of paper cash right now. It's not possible. I mean, you can do inflation, I guess. So maybe it's a half truth, but yeah, you really can't. It's not like they can have like a policy. Well, I'm going to talk myself into a corner here because inflation could be considered an interest rate. But anyway, I think it could help stop some, future bank runs. Because if the interest rate on the cash is so low, like inflation, then you'd rather keep your value in the commercial bank right? Because maybe they're at least paying you something, even though it's, at least in current times, nothing, but at least it's not negative. And you want to keep the money in the commercial banks because that's where all the elasticity and the credit creation comes in for the entire economy. So this is why, like, the Great Depression was so bad. It was because you had all the money pulled out of the credit creation system. And most money, like most of the value that trades around day to day, is credit. Like, probably, I don't know, close to 90%. I mean, so if you take 90% of the money out of the system, this is when you're pulling liquidity out. This is what quantitative tightening, QT, or whatever they want to call it, this is what it's doing. It's sucking value out of the credit, out of the system. So then there's just less value to move around. So essentially everybody kind of does a little worse because just less money moving around.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to be able to see when governing bodies start to be able to pivot on monetary policy and how everything's actually going together. Just noticing, listened to a thing this morning that the US is actually going to start having issues with diesel, which is one of the easiest petroleum products to be able to create
Oh,
as well when it comes to refining.
I know I was speaking about it the other day, man. I think we're 20 days away. No, 19 days away, almost, I think, of the diesel reserve in the United States being burned up. Once that happens, because we have not been, I don't think we've been receiving a lot of, or if any, diesel or gasoline to the country. And so we're burning off our reserves right now, that has been stockpiled by the government. I'm already seeing it in New York, though. I mean, diesel's already $6 a gallon. It's pretty bad. I'm not happy about it.
$6, holy cow!
Yeah, and I mean, I get good mileage, but that's kind of expensive. I mean, this
Yeah, that's like double. Like, I mean, I buy gasoline, but it's like double.
Yeah, it was under $3 a year ago.
Yeah, it's funny here in Australia as well. It used to, I mean, I have to run that like the 95 RON or 98 petroleum for my cars because they're obviously souped up and they need to be able to run that kind of fuel. But yeah, the diesel side of things, diesel here always used to be a lot cheaper than normal petroleum products, obviously because the refining methods are a little bit more crude and a little bit easier to be able to do. But yeah, they're starting to be able to jump up here too. But when you start talking about supply chains, I mean everything runs on diesel. Like most of the boats out there that are actually moving, say, coal from one place to the next, like just to be able to run the electric fields, depending on what state that you live in the US as well. Like they're actually having issues doing that. Um, that's going to be a major crunch if they don't have enough diesel to actually just move goods and services around.
Fun times.
Yeah, sorry, that was probably a little bit off topic.
No, it plays right into economics, where the situation is macro right now, right? Um, you know, the entire shipping industry, like you said, is really dependent on diesel fuel as of right now. So it's very serious.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I don't know of any commercial shipping company that has a nuclear powered ship.
Yeah, no, I don't think there are either.
I mean, that would be a really good use case for nuclear energy, but I really don't see anyone giving up uranium rods for some company just to be able to run their ships. The other idea as well, I mean, you could possibly put a whole bunch of solar panels over the top of the shipping containers, but I don't know if the idea of being stuck out to sea when you've got a whole bunch of clouds for a week would be any good for the industry.
No, even when you're on a sailboat, like you bring extra gas. Like if you're going out, you know, you. I mean, I did one pretty long trip, and I mean, we put an extra 55-gallon drum of gas on the boat just just to make sure, and it's a good thing we had it because there was no wind. I mean, it was nice calm seas, which was good, right? But if there's no wind and you're a sailboat, like, what are you gonna do? you, like, you're just gonna drift with the current, essentially. So yeah, we brought all the gas, and it's a anyway.
Well, just going back to the economical side of things. I mean, okay, and this is a bit political as well, I suppose, and I don't really want to get that deep into it, but using the reserves that the US has at the moment to be able to bring down the price for a short period of time before the midterms, and no doubt straight after the midterms, the community are going to be like, wow, we really need to be able to step up our oil production. And there's massive reserves in the US and Canada, and sort of that economic game of, okay, let's get this done, and then we'll pivot after that point and see where that goes. But the oil reserves in the US, when it comes to actually, like, their stockpiles, I mean, they're at record lows, like they're at 40-year lows or something like that. I mean, what happens if there's a situation where, okay, this war does, with Ukraine and whatnot, seem to be able to push out a little bit further? You need to be able to fuel your tanks and your planes and all those, and supply chains as well, just to be able to keep countries running. It's a pretty crazy situation.
I mean, in terms of the oil markets, it could turn into a conundrum. Um, Maybe they would go more into fracking and stuff. I mean, it's not like the U.S. doesn't have oil. It's just, is the U.S. willing to, you know, extract it, consume it, what have you? But see, the problem I have with all this, I'm going to kind of switch back to crypto. The problem I have with all this is it's more of a industrial age business model type of thinking, which is extractionary. So, you go out to sea, you catch the fish. Okay. So you take the fish from the sea. You go out to the forest, you cut the tree. Okay. You take the tree from the forest. You go out to the oil field, you extract the oil. Okay. So you take the oil from the ground. Like, this is industrial age thinking. Um, the I think I don't like the idea of information age, but I would prefer networked age. The idea of a networked age, and to some degree, anyway, the idea of networked age is you are connected, and you recognize those connections, right? I mean, like, we're all connected here on a voice chat. Okay, like, wow, whatever, cool. Um, but you're connected with people and things and objects, and you gotta, like, the way you create value, when the way you approach creating value in a connected system is more like complementary, where you're trying to help the people you're connected to, right? So because the stronger they are, the stronger you are. It's like a team building thing almost, in a sense. I never really thought about it quite like that. But yeah, you gotta like your the incentive structure in a networked world is more towards like let me help you, because if you're stronger, then like you can help me better, right? So it's still kind of a selfish incentive, right? Like I want as much help as I can get, but the best way to do that is by having the strongest people around me. So like I want to make you know, like does that, so that's totally different than a industrial age where it's like I'm just going to go cut the tree down, or like, you know, catch the fish or what have you. Like that's an extractionary, like I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to take that thing, right? Like I have the ability to go take the thing and now it's mine and I can sell it, and that's that. There's a different mentality between the between the two paradigms. And that one of the issues I think we have, sorry, I'm on a bit of a soapbox here, but one of the issues that I think we have with, you know, some corporate and political leaderships is that a lot of them, they're still operating under the industrial age, like paradigm, like mind frame, whatever you want to call it. But we're living in a networked age, so they're just operating with like a completely depreciated mindset. It's the industrial age is over. It's gone, done. Like the world's moving on, and a lot of them haven't like caught up to speed, basically, which is it's a painful thing to watch.
Well, you know, everything sort of relates back to the monetary policies of each government around the world at the moment too. So, I mean, you look at most of the big decisions that have been made out there, and I'm not sort of calling all these situations like big black swan events, but it seems to be the continual degradation of monetary policy around the world, or sorry, the changing aspects of how the monetary policy with, you know, fiat currency has been used, and almost to the point where it's actually been abused. And in my way of thinking is that they've known this for a while, that the change needs to come at some point, and they need to be able to find a new system to be able to run everything on. And the answers seem to be directly in front of their face with obviously cryptocurrency and blockchain innovations, and how that will actually speed up the economies around the world as well. Like the the only issue that I see with all the things that are going on around the world as well is it's not just, you know, just it's not just money. It's also the value of goods and products and services, and how the fiat system attached to say your gold markets and silver markets, precious metals, and everything's been manipulated for such a long time. They're almost going to have to unravel the whole system to and all the lies and you know, wrongdoings
Think
to
of
be
it.
able to move into a new system.
Think of it. Think of it more like an upward spiral. Okay. Think of like a cone shaped thing. Um, and time would be on the vertical axis. Um, and value or like sort of money would be on the horizontal axis. Am I making any sense, or am I already off base?
No, you're making sense, man. No, I get understand your concept.
Yeah.
But,
As
but there's a big difference when you start to be able to, or like the powers that be have manipulated that that graph if you know what I mean, like where there should be peaks which would change different policies for, say, cash value or whichever it is, compared to commodities or securities or whichever, and they want to be able to flatten that curve for that time and value to be able to suit their monetary policies at the time. And then over time, that's actually just blown out way too much, and we find ourselves in this printing situation to be able to cover it up.
As time keeps going up, the cone keeps getting bigger, and it wavers, right? Sometimes you do, like, say, quantitative tightening and what have you, and maybe like for this chunk of time, the cone, pulls its belt in or something. But over the long haul, the thing keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then it'll switch over. I don't know if you know, like, S curves and stuff, but it'll switch over to something else. I mean, the dollar isn't going to be the global reserve currency forever. It's going to probably be the global reserve for the rest of my life, but not forever.
I think it's in the process right now of not becoming the world's reserve. I would, I definitely do think it's in your life. I think it's way earlier than you think, but only because of the technological advancements that we have today, like CBDCs that will be coming soon, and AI and other aspects that we can integrate into society. So I definitely do think that Triffin dilemma will be solved sooner than later, because it has to be, because we're destroying the rest of the world right now. There's only a matter of time till, if it comes to a World War III, right, scenario, if it's pushed that far, that would be some sort of different economic reign after that, most likely. So hopefully it
Well,
doesn't go down that route.
the thing with the Triffin dilemma is it's like a slow squeeze. Like, you slowly, and then it's like you cross that precipice and you're off the cliff. Like, and we've already done this. I mean, we fell victim to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I find is really, really funny as well, right? So, I mean, the what is it? Maybe 5% of the Earth is really into using crypto, and whether they just buy it for the investment side of things, or they're actually using it for its general purpose, to be able to trade money from one country to the next, or use it for whatever purpose they see fit. What happens when 50% of the Earth starts using it for its intended purpose, whether the US dollar's still the international exchange dollar or whichever? Um, yeah, the use case of the original fiat system, it will still be there. It's still easy to be able to use, but at some point, the technological basis is just going to win straight over.
That, combine that with the economic basis, and then you got your winner. Combine those two well, you're going to be a happy camper. I mean, at some point, the marketing stuff does wash away. All the sales and the glitz and the glamour and all this kind of BS, it does wash away. And then you're left with, like, okay, what's just like, what like sort of functionality do we have here? And the economics work? Is it sustainable? If the economics don't work, it's not sustainable. If the technology has an advantage, it can probably help create a better economic situation. But you gotta be able to deploy the technology in a way to like capture that economic advantage. Anyway.
yeah, it's a good time for the governing bodies to be able to say that that crypto is sort of still the Wild West, and there's rug pulls, and people shouldn't be getting involved too heavily, and there's no need to be able to start investing in crypto, for the general mass of society. Because if a lot of people did jump onto that train, and I mean, what we're looking at $1 trillion market cap or so at the moment, that blows out to $5 to $20 trillion. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money out of the old banking network in a sense when it comes to the investment side of things. So yeah, you make moves like that and you create ripples out there.
Well, it's not money out of the incumbent banks, commercial banks, whatever you want to call them. It's new value creation. Like say I start a company and I go public and I issue shares for $10. Okay, so I got $10. Cool. So I'm gonna take that $10 and I'm gonna go do whatever I do with my company, and then the share price goes up to $30. Like nobody's took $20 from anybody because there's $20 profit now, right? Because the initial buyers bought at 10, so now it's 30, 20 profit. Nobody took $20 from anybody. I mean, this is value creation. Hopefully that's not too simplified.
Yeah, I was more referencing, especially with the old financial system, and the incumbent banking system. I'm more referencing volume and volume over time, and that exponential growth of a new sector that.
Well, I think they are concerned, legitimately so, about the liquidity starting to flow through, not them, right? I mean, that's their real job. That nobody, they don't put that on the website, but mechanically, I think they are worried about that.
Yeah, so that's referencing the volume of work that they do, and because the volume is up, therefore they have the liquidity there to be able to continue on to be able to run that volume. But without the volume of transactions and the ease of use of having your dollars or your value actually with that banking system instead of using another inherent system such as having your money invested in crypto, that volume, as soon as that, if that drops to a certain point, and obviously the liquidity will drop within that bank as well. I mean, the systemic risk of the banks actually going insolvent in a way, because they just don't have enough to be able to cover off on their investments and the volume of transactions that run every day too.
Well, see, I think what we're going to see happen, and this isn't like a tomorrow thing, obviously. This is going to take a couple of years. Is on multiple scales or levels of, yeah, multiple scales. So it is just the decentralization thing. This is what's going on in finance. Okay, finance is a highly centralized industry as in current, like, form factor. That doesn't mean it has to be that way. So um, you're going to see the highly centralized from the global level is the global reserve currency is the dollar. Okay, that's centralized, one central bank. Um, uh, but then with the other banks, you see, like, the money center banks, like the JP Morgan, Citibanks, what have you. They're at the center of the network. That's going to get distributed, right? So all these other banks are all of a sudden going to have this capacity or capability to like do international payments and whatnot, and they're not going to have to go through JP Morgan or Citibank or whatever, Goldman. So if you were to like chart the network graph of the banking network, you're going to see that the clusters, the influencers, the nodes in the middle, the money center banks, they're gonna as the other nodes and the other banks in the network connect with each other and go like around the center few, then those influencers are gonna not be as in a powerful position. So yeah, but I mean, this is going to take a couple of years. Well, more than that. Well, yeah, I mean, it's already been 10. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. I don't know any other way around it. I mean, what the hell else would happen? What other outcome could there be? And I mean, please riddle me. Like, I'm curious. Like, I don't see any other way around that being the outcome.
Yeah, it would be interesting to be able to see how they want to be able to play it. The other side, I think about it as well. I mean, say with like your central banks and their value creation on central bank bonds and things like that too. I mean, they still set their central bank bonds at I think it's $100 US, and they've got a return rate of about 6%, which I think is also a capped rate too. They need to be able to make that value creation somewhere, or otherwise, do they have to go back to the point of printing as well? So you've got a governing body that's trying to be able to make decisions. You've got the Fed, which is trying to be able to, balance some good monetary policies, and then you've got treasuries as well, which is trying to be able to look after, the accumulation of cash and bonds and stocks and the whole entire kit and caboodle. Yeah, the banking system, as we all know, has always been run by, which you could almost call it like a conglomerate of banking cartels. So if you want to call them the banksters or whichever, and I don't mean that they're mean or nasty
Well,
persons in any kind of way, but the difference between trying to be able to change policies away from something that's been ingrained in the political system, which is, we're talking big bucks here as well, and moving that into something else that may not have their best interests at heart, will definitely be making some people very, very mad over time. And we all know that technology is going to win out. It's just when the political side of things actually pulls the pin on the other side of the banking sector.
well, the banking industry is a networking industry, and networks, whether they're railroads or, it doesn't matter what kind of network, internet, um, ISPs, banks, they tend towards monopolistic uh, end states, I guess is probably the best way to say that. They tend towards the there becomes there's a natural, the way the network operates, it usually goes towards like a center. So even though, quote unquote, with blockchain everything's getting decentralized, right? Watch, there's going to be a few people. I mean, you've already seen this with Andreessen Horowitz. Google's keeping their mouth shut smartly. You got DCG. Like, there's still already centralization, or an oligopoly, if you will. Blockchain's not just like every man for himself. Like, dude, there's power players, or whales, I guess is what you're supposed to call them.
No, I totally agree, man. Listen, I know you do this, but if anyone else has got any questions on like crypto or anything like, we're probably going a little bit off topic in a way, I suppose. I'll shut up in a minute.
No, you're good, man. I mean, as long as it's kind of reasonably on topic, I this is market dynamics, and we're watching new markets get developed. To me, that's fun. Takes years, but still, that's fun.
It all plays into the Internet of Value. So that's that's our topic, right? And so, and as long as it plays into that, I mean, yeah, let's talk about it. It's been a great conversation so far. We got like five to 10 minutes left. So let's finish out strong, and we can keep going, and we'll close up soon.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Send some invites out just in case there's anybody who would like to come up in the audience. Go ahead though, Alex. What you were saying?
Yeah, like I mean, I really enjoy the economical side of or economics side of blockchain and what it actually can create and how it will create it over time as well. I mean, the what you call it, like the keystone of integration into so many different networks for so many different things is right in front of us as well. I mean, going back to that HBAR situation, without just having a company, say, with like Amazon, that they'll go and do their own private thing, and once again creating that walled garden sort of situation. But obviously, when you've got a product and you're such a large company, you can integrate that into other companies around the world, but obviously they're going to be doing that at a costing as well. And if you've got something that's like an agnostic product out there that you can buy on the open market, it holds its value, you use it for its value as well. So that's once again it's value creation. There's so many different aspects that could be used, from stocks and bonds, commodities, direct trades. Once again, like the tracking of goods or the tracking of information as it's sent from place to place to place. Medical field. There's so much happening, and it's almost too much for one person to be able to sort of understand about it, and that's why I really do enjoy these conversations too.
Well, I always thank you for coming, Alex. I mean, you're here every day, man, and yeah, I know you wake up. Well, we had daylight savings, so or you, I guess you did, so it makes it a little easier. But you get up just to be here every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's important. I learn a lot from you guys, and I learn a lot from the rest of the community that come in too. So, and I'd like that to be able to continue, like, and get out to like a bigger basis as well. I mean, we're looking at 5% maybe of the world that's involved with cryptocurrency or whichever. And once again, there's probably more likely 50 to 60% of that 5%. So we're only probably talking about two, maybe 1% that actually get engaged with communities and actually understanding what projects are, instead of just someone just saying, okay, well, this is going to go to the moon or whichever, and they just go, right, I'll stick some money into that and hope for the best, and basically only just look at the tickers from time to time to be able to see how their investment's going. So when this goes across the rest of the world and it's been integrated into the rest of our financial systems, I mean, there's got to be somewhere to be able to go to ask those questions or contact people that are in the know. And I think we were discussing this last night, Karma and I. Like ledgerscale has really got a position where you've got people that either understand one section or multiple sections of this industry and these ideas. Um, you need contacts like that, and the rest of the world will need contacts like that. So, as the space grows, I mean, I'd really expect ledgerscale to sort of fill some of those pockets, and it's just every day doing the everyday grind to come up with either ideas or discuss topics. It's I think it's just really important, man.
Well, I can say unequivocally, over the years, I have learned an incredible amount from the XRP community. I mean, some of the people that I bumped into are, I just, it is not the kind of stuff that they would even ever teach in like a college course. You know, it just not. It would never make it into a textbook. And it's actually been, it's one of the reasons I'm still like around, is because it's fun. Like all these people, I mean, including some of you guys, like I learn all this stuff, and it's like I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Wow. Okay. Right. So I'm hoping that's what we're trying to do here. And yeah, if folks appreciate it, that's good. Death, are you ready to wrap up, or
Yeah,
you want to keep
yeah.
going, or?
No, we'll close it up. We'll close it up. Thank you. Of course, I thank you to everybody who's comes to listen and comes to speak. Alex, you're the only one left on the speakers list, but it was a great chat today and a great space. Nothing you heard today, guys, was financial advice, of course. Panel's views do not necessarily represent those of ledgerscale. Up at the top, if you guys would like to, we have a link to some crypto addresses if you would like to donate to us to further our development and hopefully be able to run more hardware and more infrastructure in the future. But I hope everybody has a good rest of the night, and I will see everybody here tomorrow, hopefully 3:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody.